Are we going? Are we ready to go? Hello and welcome in. Erin Trafford here with you. You're listening to the Narrative Advantage podcast, and we're in the middle of a 5-part series unpacking the massive shifts that we have seen in communications and marketing in the last 18 months or so. As I'm recording this, it's just the tail end of November 2025. So not sure when you are checking out this podcast or the video version over on my YouTube, but I think it doesn't really matter. Everything has changed. And if you haven't caught the last 2 episodes, I actually recommend you stop and go back a couple episodes and just listen to this series as a whole. We're talking about why it feels different, how it feels different, how to diagnose if you are falling into some habits or ruts that aren't actually going to get you anywhere. So we talked a lot about how the funnel has changed. We're entering a flywheel era in terms of leadership, content, development, and sales. And we're looking at some of the ways that we are behaviorally as leaders adapting to this for the good or for the better, or for the worse rather. So today's episode, I really want to dig into this feeling, and I have labeled this in my own notes as this feeling like you are pushing water uphill. The last few months in business, especially if you are a creative entrepreneur, especially if you are a service-based business, with the onset of AI, with all of the noise in the economy, it has felt for many of us, myself included, like pushing water uphill. You are convincing the market. It is full of proving energy. And for those of you who have been with me for a long time, and I know many of you have, you'll know that I don't just dabble in energetics. I live energetics alongside my strategies. So what does that mean? It means that I have taken advanced courses in human design. It means that I am a certified yoga teacher. It means that I don't just believe in somatic practices. I practice somatics as part of my leadership development. And so when I talk about the energy of proving and the energy of convincing, where does that live in the body? Literally, it lives in tense muscles. It lives in I can't sleep at night. It lives in our nervous system as quite literally a frazzle. It is not good for us to live in a state of convincing. We want to live as humans, experiencing this life in a state of flow, of invitation, of receipt, as in receiving. That's where we want to live. We don't want to live in a world where we're constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. When do we get to sit down and relax and just receive? And all of 2025 has felt like pushing water uphill. Water does not want to go uphill. Water wants to go downhill, because water is the life force on Earth that is synonymous with and the constant reminder of let it flow. And with all of the shifts that we have seen on the ground in 2025, political, economic, social, AI, all of these things, the flow of that water, the flow of sales, the flow of receipt, the flow of invitation has changed. And so we need to accept that. And therefore we need to change. But there's a huge portion of us that don't want to, because change is scary. It's scary for our nervous system. It's scary for our business. It's scary for our brains. It's scary in every sense. So if you've been feeling like this, you're not alone. And I hope that that analogy helps you at least lock on to how to explain it. I've been pushing water up a hill. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. So I've just been noticing this pattern of folks who are exhausted. And it gets really interesting when we talk about this analogy of pushing water up a hill, when then we layer on the analogy that we all use for sales, which is a funnel. right? And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see I'm making the V shape with my hands. The funnel, quite literally, was designed to funnel a liquid, a flow, in a direction that we wanted it to go. So the sales come in the top, they get filtered and funneled. And so I think that these two forces coming to reckon in the last 8 months or so, 18 months, whatever, pick your time period, is a really interesting dynamic. Because my deep sense from talking to founders, from talking to clients, from evaluating the market, from having dozens and dozens of coffee chats with folks, on LinkedIn and meeting with people across really North America and in fact in Europe as well, is it's time to reevaluate the funnel. And it sounds like I'm saying the funnel is dead. And that's like a bit of a dude bro marketing ploy by saying the funnel is dead, buy my tactic. I'm not actually selling a tactic. What I want you to understand is that the energy of the funnel is what we've all realized is exhausting. It's exhausting to sell that way, and it's exhausting to receive that way. So with the changes, I actually think this presents a beautiful opportunity to reevaluate how do we want the energy of our communications and our sales to flow? How do we want it to flow? And so where I have been leaning, and the irony of all of this is that I don't think I've ever put it this way, but since the dawn of my business in 2012, I have been doing it this way. I've just never described it that way. And not to say, I definitely have run traditional funnels with tripwires and offer stacks and upsells and downsells and blah, blah, blah. I've done all of that. But I've always done it within what I can now call a flywheel. I used to call it a chocolate fountain because that sounds delicious. And my students who came through the Organic Traffic Academy way back when I was teaching organic traffic growth, this would have been 2021, they'll remember my chocolate fountain reference because I always liked to use food as an analogy because our brains like food, right? So I always used to say you need to have something that flows. And if you've ever seen a chocolate fountain or just a regular fountain, but make it chocolate, it's so much more fun. You'll know that it's a bunch of bowls, small bowl, medium bowl, big bowl, bigger bowl, and you pour the chocolate on the top and it just starts to spout and it's self-sustaining. And the stuff you pour in the top does eventually reach the bottom. And then where I would add to that analogy is at any point you can take your nice piece of fruit, your strawberry on your stick, and stick it into any one part of that fountain and you're gonna get chocolate. You're gonna get value. And then you might go back for more. This is how I've always thought about my content. It's how do I make it be a chocolate fountain so that no matter where somebody enters into my wheel, enters into my flow, A, they get something delicious, and B, they want to come back for more. That is fundamentally what a content flywheel is. Now, it gets really fun when you start to layer in offers because, if I put my strawberry in at this level, it unlocks this little offer that helps accelerate me or velocifies me, that's also a fancy word, to a new realization, and then I want even more. Then I come back faster. It whets my appetite. So that is how you think about your content flywheel. How is your value stack and your sales stack acting like a flow that has a rhythm? I've now developed in the new Clarity to Conversion Diagnostic that if you would like to jump in on that, is still available as of the time of recording this. In the show notes or the description box below, erintrafford.com, you can click the button, you can book right in, is what I will do for you is show you visually what I think your flywheel or your chocolate fountain or whatever you want to call it should look like, or what a version of it could look like. There's no should here, it's all could. And it's a diagram and it looks very much like infinity symbols all linked together. There's no open where there's, the top is less valuable than the bottom. It's all valuable. All of it is valuable. You can focus on one part over here. You can focus on the middle part over here. It puts you at choice. It lets you feel like everything you're doing has a purpose and an intent. It lets you evaluate the people who are buying from you, because let's also not forget, people are not numbers. People are not credit cards. People are not Stripe notifications. People are people who are opening up their wallet and their desire to receive something from you. So when you think about your flywheel like this, it actually reconnects you to, oh, there is a person on the other side of this. They are not a transaction. We're not getting them to do anything. We're making an invitation to enter the flow and to receive the value where they are ready to receive that value. We're not forcing, we're not creating this pressurized energy. There is no sense of coercion here. This is really, you talk about those dude bros like the Gary V's and the Alex Hermosis of the world, and oh my word, what they actually profess is this: show up and give value. Give value until somebody throws it back at you in a way that's valuable to you. Now, the world interpreted that as give value and force them down. Give value and force them down the funnel. Give value and force them down the funnel. And if they don't match this criteria, biff them out because they're not worth our time. And I'm going to tell you that this narrative is going to get old and stale very quickly if you bring it with you into 2026, because it doesn't treat people like people. It treats people like transactions. And the world has gone through so much energetic shift in the last 18 months that nobody wants that. Whether they can articulate that they don't want it or not, it doesn't matter. Approaching your sales that way is not going to work. We are in a relationship economy. The flywheel is how you build relationship at scale. The funnel was how you forced transaction at scale. Do you see the difference? So I've given you a bunch of visuals because obviously this is a podcast and you can't see me. So I'm hoping that you can pick this up. Pick whichever one fits your brain. Is it a chocolate fountain, which I loved for years? And I might bring that one back. Maybe I'll try to get AI to make me a chocolate fountain visual. Is it a chocolate fountain? Is it a bunch of looping infinity symbols, right? Like that 8 symbol, all looping together. And there's no linearity to it. There's nothing linear anymore. The other visual you could think of is like a windmill water wheel. Right? So I don't know if you have children or whatever, they often play with water tables in the summertime, and there's little buckets and wheels, and the water flows through the wheels and the wheels connect to the wheels, or a marble game where the marble goes through. You can start to think about it like this. It's all connected. The line doesn't have to look straight. It can be curlicue. It can loop back in on itself. There's all kinds of opportunity there. So even if you just start to think about, how is my content creating this chocolate fountain stack? How am I inviting them in, giving them value, inviting them to revisit things? That doesn't happen in a funnel. You don't want them to revisit the top. If they've come in the top, you're forcing them further down until they lose value for you. Ick. No, some people operate at different speeds, so bring them in. Hey, do you need to go revisit that? Cool, here's an invitation to go revisit that. I'll move at my speed, you move at your speed, and eventually we're going to come together. Now, where this gets uncomfortable for folks is breaking this habit of things having to happen in the old time frame, but we are in a new time frame now. So your expectations of speed and velocity are going to change. It doesn't mean you're not going to make big sales. It doesn't mean you're not going to have huge wins. It doesn't mean that some people are not going to read your stuff and then 5 minutes later buy from you. But it does mean that maybe you're going to reassess the value of the people who have never bought from you. Why haven't they? Where are they in a flywheel? If I take them out of the funnel context and put them in a flywheel context, where can I bring them that will help them feel more comfortable engaging in more of my flow? Oh, that's a totally different question. That's a totally different question. So yes, I could be hyperbolic and say the funnel is dead, the funnel is dead, the funnel is dead. And it's not really, because you can still have funnels within a flywheel. But I think the thinking, that binary thinking of it is either a funnel or it's not, has always been wrong. We've actually always been in a flywheel scenario. We just refuse to admit it.